Well. If it ain't your old pal, Jeremy Mountain here with another episode of Bleumafia, Bills lovers everywhere united. Do or die time, baby. It's dead or dance. Which one do you want? It's game time, baby. It's a Saturday morning. It's a beautiful day in the Elmwood Village. We have not exactly been around every week this week, so all you listeners, watchers, Bleumafia supporters, appreciate you sticking around. Last week we had a unfortunate but honorable death of grandfather James Afton Mountain. We laid him to rest. Beautiful life, beautiful soul. Thank you, Grandpa, for everything you ever did for me and the rest of the Mountain clan and all of the other subsequent tributaries of love that grandfather provided. We took a week off. We had a lot going on. Hope everyone had a good Christmas, good New Year. But it's game time, so let's get right into it. Stefon Diggs hasn't had enough catches. Stefon Diggs has to be more of a part of the offense. Josh Allen hasn't looked good. We're 4-0 since the Eagles game? The best game of Josh Allen's career, in my opinion. Turned the season around, come out of the bye. Not the position that Buffalo wants to be in, but after all is said and done, to be in this position at the end of the season, one game for the AFC East, don't have to give up the crown after such an ugly, despicable season in many's eyes. This team is in a position to win the AFC East. What more can you ask for? Now, obviously, as everyone knows, the playoff implications will be set by the time the game kicks off. We'll go over a little bit of that in part 2 on the back end in the top 5 quarterback matchups of the week. But ultimately, I don't care if Stefon Diggs has a catch this weekend. I don't care if he has a catch next weekend in a potential playoff scenario. Stefon Diggs is an amazing talent. He has yet to do anything in a big game. So this podcast hasn't been surprised to see the wins stack up for the team as Stefon Diggs' personal accolades have diminished. This should not be a surprise to anyone. Stefon Diggs has done some amazing things in some somewhat important games, but if you go back and look at the stat lines, every time that this 14 has played in a major game, playoff and or major game, Stefon Diggs has been absent. Now, you can look at the snap counts, you can question the scheme. Bottom line is, nobody has any tape on Stefon Diggs being schemed into this offense for a month. Think about that. As much as you may look at this number 14 stat column as a detriment to this offense heading into the most important part of the season, you also have to consider if you were planning on preparing against number 14, Joe Brady, and this Bills offense, you only have about a month to look at. But on top of that, you don't have very much scheme to 14 in the last month. That could put us at an advantage in this week matchup versus the Dolphins and potentially moving forward because we are in the playoffs now. Understand, we could be in the playoffs as of 8:30 if the Ravens backups take down the Steelers. We may already be in the playoffs. You hope that the Bills don't take this seeding lightly if they know that they're in. You have to think if Allen's finger was a little bit more messed up and they were in the playoffs, they may not risk it. But no risk it, no biscuit. He seems obviously like he's going to go. Has Josh Allen missed a game since his rookie year? Somebody look that up. Guy's a warrior. The moose is loose. But who cares if Diggs has 35 yards if we get the dub? Bottom line is, don't be surprised if you see Diggs break out a little bit this week. Don't be surprised if you see him get on a heater, because ultimately Brady may have a couple of 14 tricks up his sleeve. Number 2, Joshy Got Fingered. Don't like to see Allen writhing and twiddling his fingers after that last hit versus the Patriots. It was another ugly win for the Bills. You had to think that Belichick was going to go out on his shield. He did. Zappy come back after a treacherous first quarter, first half, and had them in the game. And if they wouldn't have missed 2 field goals, special teams, Belichick, yada, 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 who knows? But the bottom line is they got it done. Now, wasn't happy to see Allen take the hit on the final game sealing run of the game. We have 4 running backs that could have taken that hit. But ultimately, you love to see the quarterback laying it on the line. When you have a quarterback that lays it on the line when it matters most, that sets the precedent. That sets the bar for the rest of the team, the rest of the organization, and even the fan base. And that's why the general is special, because despite the fact that every time he rides around in an injured state or a potential injured state, your boy here starts acting like a wine-drunk mom in the suburbs worrying about her little Joshy boy. But at the same time, I heard Colt McCoy on Pat McAfee podcast this week say, you have a 100% chance of getting injured if you choose to play football. And that's something I personally never really considered at age 34. Never really thought about it like that, but you do. And I think that's what, unfortunately, you have to look at when you look at 17 carrying the ball. Now it's playoffs. Now it's a long off season. He has time to heal. You understand he's certainly going to lay it on the line this week and moving forward. But when that guy does that, nobody's going to let the game come down to whether or not they chose to leave it on the line. If the quarterback, the face of the franchise, who is supposed to be the leader but not supposed to be the savage, when the quarterback is the savage, you got yourself a savage roster. And with that being said, number 3, it's time to tee off on D. It's time to lay the lumber. This Sean McDermott defense, despite 9/11 references to Al-Qaeda, despite injury, has proven to be one of the toughest and most close-knit units on defense. Micah Hyde is back from injury. Jordan Poyer also facing father time, but they're doing what they need to do. Terrell Bernard, big-time Pro Bowl snub, but he has outshined expectations immensely. You look forward to seeing him in number 58 next year, but the bottom line is this defense needs to tee off. It's going to be a long off season. This is a playoff game. Like we said, we may be in already, but nobody wants to go into the playoffs losing, especially if you're losing to a division rival. So we're going to be looking for some hard hits from the Bills defense, because don't forget what happened versus the Bengals last year when we got out physical. Number 4, I do think that this is going to come down to a final stop for this defense. And karma is a bitch. And Sean McDermott asked for this. He wanted control. We've seen it falter. We've seen this team lose on the last drive several times. There does seem to be a different edge. We said it here on Bleumafia. When Von Miller and Sean McDermott were both publicly undressed for their own public relations misgivings, this defense, this team, this organization was going to get closer, because real leadership was going to be able to come to the forefront, because the so-called leaders with their masks had to take the mask off. And that's why I trust this defense to get a final stop. I do think it will come down to the final drive. I don't think that Allen's going to have the ball in his hands. If it does, I'll ride with 17 with the ball in his hands anytime. But I do think this is going to come down to Tua. And ultimately, I think that we get the stop, and I think that we get the dub. I'll give you my keys to the victory right after we go through the Hounds. If you don't know by now, these are the guys that you need to be prepared for on defense. Christian Wilkins, he's the one that fingered Joshy's butthole in a game in Buffalo. Emmanuel Ugba, also tough. Raquan Davis in the nose is tough. Andrew Van Ginkel. There's about 4 linebackers in the league that look like him, but he is also a football player. Duke Riley flies around a little bit. Obviously, big injury to Xavier Howard, who won't be playing. But Javon Holland, you've heard me talk about him here many times. Ball hawk, football player. And then obviously Jalen Ramsey, who was not in the game last time in Buffalo when we blew them out. But this defense is not weak. This defense can be run over. I think the run game plays a huge factor for Buffalo this week. Obviously, I think Allen has to protect the football. He can do whatever he wants, but just don't fumble. Don't have as big of a problem with the interceptions as I do as the ignorant fumbles like he had versus the Patriots last week. But my keys to the victory are obviously hits on Tua. You've heard me say it before. We got to lay the lumber on Tua. We don't want dirty hits, but we need big, safe, happy hits on Tua to build the momentum, get that Bills Mafia crowd in the game. And also, you've heard people say you want to get Tua off of his first read, but I think more specifically, you want to make Tua's ground shaky. You want him on shaky ground, earthquake ground, because when he gets the feet set, it's not only the first read, but he needs his feet set. He's got that lefty awkward release that he needs those puppies set perfectly. He's like a three-point shooter almost in a way where he's got his feet set, he's going to hit it. But if he's got to get off balance, if there's a man in his face, if he's got to do a fadeaway, if he's got to get outside of the pocket, he's not as mobile as he once was. He's thicker. But if you have him on shaky ground, he's not going to be as accurate. This team can still run despite having an injury to Raheem Mostert, who is, as of right now, questionable. Devon Achane didn't look like he had an injury designation. I know he was a little bit banged up. Waddle obviously is coming back from an ankle injury, and then you obviously have Tyreek Hill. But all these guys can still run. I don't want to underestimate just because of some injuries and some banged up moments in the last few weeks. The Bills still need to make tackles. First tackle, not second, third, 12 yards down the field, because we know Waddle and Hill can be out, and we know Achane can be out. Just got to score 30 points. I think 30 points does it. Plain and simple. 30 points from the offense. Maybe the defense can help us out. Special teams, Bassmaster's got to hit. But 30 points, I think, does it, because I think the defense can get a stop. I think the defense can make Tua's ground shaky, and I'm confident heading into this big time squish the fish matchup. So let's break down a couple things on the back end, get you out of here. Appreciate you listening. I got the Bills. Let's go. It's the implications. It's the implication. Dennis Reynolds once said, it's the implication. And every analyst says it. But this week is finally time where it is the implications. Finally, we have playoffs partially set. We know that the Bills are going to be in a position to either be in 2 or 6 or 2 or 0. Now let's look at it. Number 1, Mason Rudolph taking on Tyler Huntley and the backups for the Ravens. This is obviously always a boxing match. This is always a street fight. These two teams do not like each other. When the uniforms match up, it's always special. Kenny Cabbage Patch Pickett has been put back in the Cabbage Patch. Mitch Trubisky's been sent back to his short bus. Mason Rudolph has been pulled off the shelf. And the Steelers for a couple of weeks there, looked like the old Steelers. And this is going to be tough for Baltimore. Do they take out their own rival, or are they more worried about a Bills team making the playoffs? Luckily, they're the first game, so tonight at 8:30 we'll know the victor on that. We'll pick these on the end. Number 2, the other one tonight, Stroud at Minshie. Texans were a problem before Stroud got hurt. Tank Dell got hurt. They had some injuries, but other than Dell, Stroud is back. He is a certified Bleumafia field general. He makes all the plays, and a year ago he was in the Final Four taking on Georgia, so he's not going to be afraid to win tonight. Obviously, Minshew Magic, no complaints here. Love to see a 6-foot quarterback making the most out of his opportunity, and love to see good football behavior and quality brotherhood behavior being rewarded with an opportunity for Minshew to take the Colts to the playoffs. And just look at how that team's united. You haven't heard a word about Jonathan Taylor since Minshew walked in, but as a starter. But that one's going to be fun, obviously. If they tie, I think we're in. Number 3, Trevor may be injured. Could be CJ Beathard there for the Jags. Also, Will Levis, I believe, is playing for the Titans, but I know he also got banged up, so that could be Tannehill. But either way, Jaguars, Titans, you can't imagine after, I think, a 3-28 last 3-25 in the last 28, I think it is, for the Titans. Very surprising how Vrabel has such a long leash, but you have to think that they want to go out on the shield and possibly knock the Jaguars out or lower their seed. That one's still going to be a dogfight. Another division rival. 3 division battles. We got another one at number 4. Justin Fields with possibly no future. Matt Eberflus with possibly no future. With the opportunity to take away the future of Jordan Love. All this shit about the Rodgers and the Jets and the darkness retreat and if he's going to retire and then the Achilles. And look at the Packers with Jordan Love in a position to head into the dance. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. I'm rooting for Love there, even though I kind of like Fields lately. And then, obviously, number 5. We could not do it again. Josh versus Tua. Dancin or Dyin, baby. Are we dancing or are we dying? Who's going? Who's going as number 2? It's going to be a mega war. Let's pick these. I do think the Ravens want to knock out the Steelers. I'm going Huntley. Stroud at Minshie. It's going to be tough. It's going to be loud in Indianapolis. I think Stroud, just because of the big game experience last year, oddly enough. This third one is a bit of a toss-up because not sure about Trevor, but I still think the Jaguars get business done. So predicated on the Ravens, that would mean that we would be in immediately. I really would appreciate that. Thanks, Baltimore. Fields at Love. I think the Packers get it done because it's in Green Bay. And then, come on. I'm not going to pick Tua. We got Josh, baby. Dancing or Dyin. What are you going to do? Hey, win or lose. Thank you for listening this year. We'll be back. We're going to finish out the playoffs no matter where the Bills are. Just because we love this game. Faith, family, football. Love you. Go Bills.